don't even know where to start this. Hi, hey, hello, my name is Caitlyn Elizabeth, and I am a voice actress. I have been a voice actress professionally for 5, 6, maybe 7 years now. Been doing it for a hot minute, and I have been asked, I have a Discord community, you can find that in the link below, about what I do and how I do it and why I do it and how to get into it and all of those things. Oh, I don't know what that means. Uh-oh. I promised a long time ago that I was going to do weekly vlogs, and that was a joke. A joke. We're all laughing at how funny it was because there's no way I could have kept up with that. Okay, so yes. So all the questions about how I got into voiceover and all that kind of stuff, I'm just going to answer a bunch of them. So a lot of these questions are going to be coming from Draco Black because Draco Black gave me a paragraph of questions, and I'm just going to go down them. I'm going to answer them one by one. Maybe these will be multiple videos, maybe they won't, but I'm going to go so fast through them. It's going to be bullet points and try and make it succinct as possible. But there's so much information, and it's so hard to quantify this type of job because it is the Wild West. You will go from living a high of like, oh man, I just booked this super cool thing, to being like, man, I'm unemployed. Huh. So an introduction to voice acting. Oftentimes people ask where you start in your journey to becoming a voice actor. So back in 2015, I had just graduated college, and I thought I was going to be a social media manager for a supercomputer company in Boston, and that did not turn out. That job went away basically as soon as I graduated. They hired a company instead of hiring me, which is fine. That those sort of things happen. My first rejection, which is fine. So I had friends out in LA, and they told me, hey, why don't you just move to LA? You're a creative person. You'll figure it out. And I had never planned to leave Indiana, so that was a big old leap for me to make, and I didn't really come here prepared. I sort of came out with my car filled with stuff, and I stayed on a couch for the first 8 months that I was here, and because I was working as a journalist in tech and video game stuff for several years before I came out here, and I would stay, how do I explain this? I was meeting people at the convention circuit when I was working in journalism, and then the vendors started hiring me because I liked to dress up when I was there. And so I got to know both the vendors and the guests at conventions. So when I was doing either working for a vendor or doing the journalism press junket for E3 or something like that, I would stay with the people that I had met out here. So through that, I ended up meeting a lot of voice actors just in the time that I was staying in between E3 and San Diego Comic-Con. So when I moved out here, I already had a lot of people that I knew. The first couple of years I was trying to find jobs, and I did get a job. I was a social media manager at a hair care company for a while, and then during that is when I booked Little Witch Academia, my very first big role, and I realized that I don't know anything about acting, and I haven't devoted myself to this craft, and if I'm going to do this, I'm gonna have to really go hard in the paint with this. So I started taking workshops and classes and intensives and everything you could possibly think of, and over the course of several years, I developed relationships with people that I took classes with. I was doing fan projects. I was doing whatever I could get my hands on. I just wanted to work on myself. I joined a kind of a voiceover group that you could get your auditions directed for up to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. I would find any and every audition that I possibly could and throw myself every day, 5 days a week, for the whole 30 minutes if I had enough auditions to fill up the time. And I did that for about 3 years, 4 years, maybe, all while taking other classes. All right, so now I think we've covered a little of the like backstory, and there's so much more information than that, but that's enough. That's enough to go off of for this. So getting accepted into a studio. You don't get accepted into a studio. You get to know people who cast at different studios over time, and maybe they'll bring you in. So the studio itself, maybe it has a casting department, but that's not the case for every single studio. If you want really detailed information, Kira Buckland runs a group. I will put the link to that in the description below. So much information. A lot of voice acting and getting jobs consistently is just doing your homework of who does what and how can you be near where those people are and maybe get on their radar. And if you don't, maybe you will down the road. But this is a long game job. You will meet someone and maybe not work with them for 2 to 3 years. A very dear friend of mine, Laura Post, told me when I was just starting, it will take 5 years for you to get any traction. So you should be really working on yourself the whole time. Improv, acting classes, workshops, whatever you can. Do your homework on your instructors too. Make sure that they're actively working in the industry. You don't want to go in and spend money on a class and then find that it wasn't very helpful for you. Yeah, that's a whole thing in and of itself too. Applying for voice acting roles. There's not going to be much in the beginning. Like, it will feel like every audition you clawed your way to find it or access it. There are places like Casting Call Club that has auditions on there. There are places to find them, but you also need to be researching, like, if they are paid, how much, what's the usage, what are they going to be using it for? Now is my voice going to be simulated? Or is it going to be part of AI stuff? So there's a lot of things to account for in all of that. Okay. How hard is it to voice act and the difficulties of being a voice actor? I think I've kind of touched on it, but basically, you will constantly be hustling for the rest of your life. This is not a job for the faint of heart, in that you will have traumatic scenes, you will have dramatic scenes, you will have all sorts of things to play with, but you need to walk into every single session fully prepared and ready to do whatever you need to do. A lot of times you do not get the script in advance, so you are going in blind and having to immediately pull this emotional journey out of yourself. So you need to know as much as you possibly can. Knowledge is power, right? So you wanna have as much information at the surface as humanly possible, which is where all the classes and workshops and everything comes in, because that helps you learn who you are, what you do, what your wheelhouse is, and what you're capable of pulling out of the hat at any given moment. It is difficult because you will be constantly rejected. You will be recast for major roles. You will be passed over by people you know and respect, and it's not necessarily that they're passing over you because they don't want to work with you. You're just not the right fit. Think of going to a paint store and seeing all those paint chips, and you're just not the right shade for the projects that they've had on their table for the last 2 years, 3 years maybe. And they will use you when they use you, and maybe they won't. Hard to say. So you have to be fine with getting rejected all the time. Be comfy with that. Don't have this be the only thing you do. You have to have other stuff that you do in your life to feel fulfilled. As long as you are fulfilled creatively, it won't suck. It won't suck for you to have to wait for someone to give you permission to feel fulfilled, because the work won't be the only thing that fulfills you, right? Like, you're going to be fulfilled from other things you do in your life, and then when you book work, you're like, awesome, cool, this is extra, and I love it. Okay. Process of getting your audio submission ready for sending in. That is such a topic. I can't touch it. There's so many people who are really good at that stuff. Start with Audacity. That's all I'll say. Start with Audacity. Play around with it. See what it does. As far as I'm aware, Logic's, Pro Tools, and I use Audition, Adobe Audition. And that is good for me. But I also use the full Creative Suite, so that's the reason why I stick to that. Process of working with an overseas studio. You will, if you're working with an overseas studio, more often than not, there will be a translator. You'll be working with the client through like a liaison of some kind. So there's never usually like, you have to worry about knowing Mandarin or Japanese or whatever language the client speaks. You will usually have a translator, and most of the time you're not even talking to the team direct overseas you're talking to a representative of some kind. Vocal exercises for preparing your voice. Take singing lessons. Take singing lessons. You will learn so much about what your voice is capable of if you take singing lessons. You will have so much more accessible to you if you understand what this is. I recently started hearing about this guy called the Singing Athlete, and he talks about how the constriction in your voice is not actually the throat muscles clenching. There's no muscles there. It's actually your parasympathetic system. The more you know, the easier things can be. So I take singing lessons, and thankfully my instructor encourages me to record my singing lessons. So I practice daily about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes a day of doing exercises, and I will try and start my mornings with that and then do my auditions afterwards so that I'm all warmed up and ready to go with whatever. But I would always sing the ABCs or something, or try and sing a song with hyper articulation just to get my mouth ready to do words. Let's see. The foods, drinks to go for and avoid. That is going to be different for everybody. I am finding more and more that I need to not have any dairy, which makes me very sad because I get really phlegmy, and I know some people that are the same way. Hot tea is always good. Don't put sugar in it. Sugary things, dairy, those are always going to make you produce more phlegm, and then you'll sound stuffy. And if you are prone to that, then it's going to be worse. Let's see. Should cover. Yep, that does cover a lot of the commonly asked ones. If you want more specific things, listen. I am shotgunning these questions right now, and it's not concise, and it's not going to answer everything that you all need. So know that I am just answering things as I receive them in question form, and yeah, a lot of this job is doing your own homework, which is boring, right? You don't want to do homework. But a big component of the craft of acting is research. Like, the more you know about your character, the more deeply you can sink into it, right? So the same goes for just this industry in general. And even if someone writes a book on it, which there are many wonderful books out there, I can drop a couple links for the ones that I have found the most helpful below. But wow, like, you can write a book, and by the time the book is out, it's already outdated, because there's so much of an ecosystem here that is alive and constantly in moving parts. Like, we have the strike happening right now. The strike is happening. The WGA and SAG-AFTRA is striking for TV and theatrical and writing, and we don't know. Maybe there's going to be a voiceover strike. Don't know. And that could change a lot of this business in its entirety. Casting directors, become adapters. Everyone shifts hats all the time. So it's very hard to say, like, things are this way, because they will change, and fast. And you need to be researching as much, or you should be researching as much as humanly possible, to stay up on all the information that will help you succeed. Hopefully. Some other questions. I got one from Flustered Bun. Favorite roles to play and why? I love unhinged characters. I love them. I love them a lot. I think only for the unhinged aspect, I really love playing Kintaro Toyama from Prince of Tennis. He's a wild boy. I love him. A lot of the times in session, I would often tell the director, I'm just going to see what comes out of my mouth. I don't know. And anytime you can expand creatively into kind of unknown territory, that's when some crazy fun magic happens. But I also really enjoyed being Commander Syndra Thresh in World of Warcraft, because that was a lot of layers all happening at the same time that made it really fun. Yeah. I could honestly list all of my roles as being my favorite, but I do really like the unhinged ones. Let's see. What made me want to be a voice actor and why? I always loved acting. And I I started with community theater, and I did musical theater in high school. I kind of fell out of it in college, but then when I came out here after the supercomputer company and all that fell through, and I just moved out here, as a way to make money, I was doing background acting. And I was very fortunate to get on some really cool sets right out of the gate. It was like American Horror Story Hotel. It was Transparent. It was Blackish. And I was always, and a few others as well, but those are the ones I remember the most because of the experiences there. I got to have literal fireside chats with some of the main cast, talking about acting and the craft and embodying character and the meaning behind it. And it just, I was like, oh no, I really liked doing this when I was young, and I really like doing it now, and I think I want to do it again. So, yeah, I came back into the fold, and that's why I studied so fastidiously, because I knew I needed to do some catch up since I did not work on this for a long time. Kane the Fallens asks, what is my goal and my dream? I.e., is there a certain character you want to voice, or is there something else you'd like to do? My goal, my dream, is to be fulfilled creatively. It feels like a cop-out answer, but it is not. If there is a story, if there is a character, if there is a message that feels like it really strikes a chord in me, I want to be working on that. That is important to me. I want things that are going to feel connected to me, because the media that has helped me through a lot of times in my life connected with me. And I know it was because the people who were working on it connected with what they were working on. So I want to connect with my work because I understand the importance of being connected to what you're doing. All right, and the last one, just in the voiceover side of things, Josue Mong, I probably said that wrong and I do apologize. How much did your career change while going pro since Little Witch Academia? Little Witch Academia was the beginning. I was not booking very much of anything around that time, and how much did my career change while going pro? It always helps to have a character that has a longer arc that you can experience an emotional roller coaster with. I don't know how much it changed things for me. It really wasn't until I didn't go full-time with voiceover until I think it was early 2020 or early 2021. And that had not really much to do with the pandemic, but more of like the relationships that I had built in the prior 5-6 years. It just kind of culminated literally all at once. A lot of years of very hard work, being on the hustle, being on the grind. And I just booked a bunch of work all at once. And that's not to say that I am always full-time in voiceover. I still do adaptation, localization. I've done directing before. I've done casting before. So you're always going to be wearing a lot of hats, because every time you book a job, the minute you are done recording, you are unemployed again. So that is kind of the forever hustle of this job. Hopefully your previous work will bring you more work, but that's why the SAG-AFTRA is striking right now, because residuals are very important for on-camera world. And yeah, it's a big conversation. That's a whole thing in itself, and I'm not touching that. Anyway, thank you all for listening to me ramble. I will try and make this short as humanly possible. But yeah, I appreciate you all so much for the questions. If you have more questions, please join the Discord. There is a channel for questions. I'm not promising that I'm going to do these weekly. I'm not promising that I'm going to do it again anytime soon, but I will tell you that I will make more at some point. That's what we're going to say. All right. So thank you all so much for watching this. And I guess we'll see you again soon. I'm streaming over in places and stuff. There are links in places and stuff. So we'll see you around. Take care of yourselves. Eat good food. Drink water. Take care of your, go see a tree outside, breathe some air that's not inside. Take care of yourselves. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.